your questions. I will open the floor with Philip, please.
Reuters, you presumably have either read or heard the comments from Mr. Trump yesterday. He was saying the EU was very, very unfair. It was almost impossible for us, as in the US, to do business with them. He also raised the possibility of tariffs being put on cars. So maybe you could just respond to his comments, particularly first in relation to how you think the trade rules, whether they're fair, the EU is playing fair, and second, if the EU carries out these measures, is there not a kind of almost inevitably a trade war that will result?
We should be very careful with that word. That is not in anybody's interest. There are only losers in that. And that's why we will respond, if needed, in a proportionate and balanced way. I looked also at the press conference yesterday from the White House with the Swedish Prime Minister. And there are different things being discussed. The car issue is not being discussed in the Section 232. But nevertheless, I heard what the President said. There are almost, I think, only 2 million cars produced in the US by European companies. They give American jobs. A majority of them are exported, so they give revenues to the American economy. Between the EU and the US, there are not very high tariffs. It's not on the tariff side that the main obstacles are in our trading with each other. But it is true that cars have a slightly higher tariff in EU than in the US. But on the other hand, trucks, for instance, have a much higher tariff in the US. So these are things we were looking at in the TTIP negotiations to try to get rid of this. So I think on the car issue, this is not based on facts, and we'll be happy to provide you and the American we have done that already, with the facts on this, because the truth is that is creating a lot of American jobs.
Georgi.
Yuri Gotov, Euractiv. Commissioner, you mentioned measures to offset the losses that may be incurred on the EU side, and the names of certain products have already been mentioned in the press. I wonder if, for example, bourbon whiskey is concerned. What would be then? What will happen to the imports in the United States of Scotch or Irish whiskey? I mean, there will be an escalation, and there is also a slight perception that certain products are concerned because those are constituencies, basically redneck constituencies.
Thank you. There is a provisional list being discussed. It will now be shared with member states, and in a very short time it will be made public, because we need to consult on that list. So all stakeholders will have the possibility to have opinions on that. That is the rules of the WTO before there is a final list. There has been I think President Juncker even mentioned a few products such as whiskey and others. I would say that on the list there are steel products, there are industrial products, and there are agricultural products. And certain types of bourbon is indeed on the list, as is other items such as peanut butter, cranberries, orange juice, etc. Very soon that list will be public, so you will be able to plan your whiskey drinking.
Oliver.
Hello, over here. Oliver again with the Austrian newspaper Die Presse. Commissioner, are you confident that probably all this talk of trade war coming out of the White House will probably ebb after the special election next, I think, Tuesday, in a little district in Pennsylvania where there are about 17,000 steelworkers, and where Mr. Trump is trying to sort of play to an audience that is very much in favor of protecting American steel jobs? So do you think, since he hasn't formalized this, since there's quite a chaos in the administration, it wasn't coordinated with any of his departments except for Mr. Ross, do you think that possibly this is just a bit of a rhetorical exercise, and that maybe, next week onwards we're going to be sort of not talking about this anymore? Thank you.
Well, I think your guess is as good as mine on this. It is very hard to speculate what will happen. I note that the discussion on this is very high in the US as well. There are many people in the US who are also not convinced that this is the best way to go about and have said so publicly, including the Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan. So I don't know whether this will actually happen or not. I note that it is an electoral promise by the President and that he has said that he would do this very forcefully the last days. But I don't want to speculate. I truly hope that this will not happen because a trade war has no winners. And if it doesn't happen, the better, then we can work with our American friends and other allies on the core issue of this problem, overcapacity. But if it does happen, we will have to take measures to protect European jobs and workers.
Emre.
Thank you very much. Emre Peker with the Wall Street Journal. Commissioner, some member states...
Gospa komisarka, nekatere države članice in trgovinske partnerice ZDA skrbi, da tudi Evropska unija morda malce skuša ubiti pravila STO s tem, ko grozi s protiukrepi. Medtem, ko predsednik Trump govori o nacionalni varnosti. Kakšno je tveganje, da bi protiukrepi Evropske unije ne bili v skladu s pravili STO in bi jih potem izpodbijali? In ali bodo trgovinske partnerice EU, kot so Japonska, Kanada, Kitajska, lahko odstopile od sodelovanja, ker jim ne bo všeč tako protiukrepanje? Vem tudi, da se pogovarjate s trgovinskimi partnericami in zanima me, kdo je zaenkrat podporil strategijo Evropske unije, je pripravljen obrati isti pristop in kaj se zgodi, če velike partnerice, kot recimo Japonska, Avstralija in tako naprej, ne bodo podprle pristopa Evropske unije. Ja, več vprašanj ste zastavili. Prvič, komisija seveda zelo tesno sodeluje z državami članicami Evropske unije. Bila sem na neformalnem zasedanju sveta za industrijo v Bolgariji prejšnji teden in vse so podprle ta naš pristop. Države članice so tudi videli okvirni seznam in ves čas jih obveščamo o nadaljnih korakih in našem razmišljanju, tako da vse vedo. Potem skladnost s pravili STO, s pravno službo komisije skušamo seveda najti načine, ki bodo popolnoma v skladu s pravili STO, da bo vse skupaj vodotesno. In ali se pogovarjamo z drugimi partnericami? Ja, z mnogimi. Tudi te partnerice, tako kot mi, seveda še čakajo, kaj se bo dejansko zgodilo in razpravljajo v svojih kabinetih o teh temah. Ne bom rekla, da katera druga država ima kaki jasen načrt, ki ga lahko takoj razkrije. Vsi razmišljamo, vsi čakamo. Verjetno nekateri tudi gledajo to današnjo tiskovno konferenco in skušamo se koordinirati. Ponekod smo bolj učinkoviti kot druge. Nekatere države, nekatere partnerice so pripravljene podpreti naš pristop, tudi sprejeti take ukrepe, spet druge še razmišljajo.
You have to push the button, please.
Naslednje vprašanje.
You seem very confident in the fact that if you take
Ja, zdite se zelo prepričani, da če boste šli pred STO izpodbijati trditev ZDA, da gre za vprašanje nacionalne varnosti, da vam bo STO pritrdila. Zakaj? Na podlagi česa ste tako prepričani?
This section 232.
Ta razdelek 232, ki zadeva nacionalno varnost, v primeru Evropske unije in nekaterih drugih držav ni relevanten. Kako lahko tako omejen uvoz jekla iz EU, še posebej, ker gre za tako kakovostno jeklo, ki ga ZDA potrebujejo, kako je lahko to nevarno za nacionalno varnost? Tako da res ZDA težko prepričajo v svoj prav.
Just wondering whether that dispute would be the first time that you would be questioning a national security pretext in front of the WTO. A lot of legal experts say that would really undermine the WTO if you pressed ahead with that. Do you agree with that?
we will take very severe, as we do, legal advice in formulating that request for a panel in the WTO and possibly again with other partners as well, who are also looking into this.
The lady here in the front. You have to push the button. Sorry.
Is that working? Siobhan Kennedy, Channel 4 News in the UK. Commissioner, you are saying that you are looking to retaliate, not escalate.
I did not use that word. I said rebalance.
Yesterday you talked about this is not escalation, it's retaliation. Well, I just wonder, surely by listing iconic American items, Levi's, peanut butter, cranberry, orange juice, etc., that you are doing exactly that. This is escalating the situation rather than seeking to turn the volume down. Are you worried that that's how it will be perceived? And secondly, I wonder, net is the departure of Gary Cohn overnight a good thing or a bad thing for the EU position?
I'm not commenting on the different entry and departures of the White House. On your first question, as I said, we are eager not to escalate this. We do not want this to go out of proportion. But the measures that they are possibly, I still hope that we can avoid it, and we're doing everything we can to try to offer a dialogue. If they are being taken, it's potentially a very severe blow to our European economy. So we are calculating the possible injury that will make to the EU economy, and in different stages we will then take these rebalancing measures in full transparency, analysing what the effects are. We can choose to decide on the lists. We can have it ready. We can notify and have it ready, but we can also choose to wait a little bit to see how things develop. But we need, if we want to comply with WTO, to act quite swiftly on the procedural side of this. And we have no intention of escalating, but we can also not just stay silent when such a major a major measure will be taken to the European economy, potentially.
This is working now. Commissioner, what is it that the Commission specifically wishes to target by putting these very products on the list? I'm going to give you an opportunity also to answer that question in Swedish. Vilken är tanken bakom just de här produkterna har valts ut och hur är det tänkt att detta ska slå?
I can answer it first in English and then in Swedish. The measures is a split between industrial products, steel products and agricultural products. And we have looked at American products, obviously, but also where there is an adequate alternative supply for EU users, so it wouldn't hurt European consumers too much. Vi har tittat på värdet av...
We had looked at the value of the possible effect for European economy, the negative effects, and we've identified products, steel products, industrial products, and agricultural products, and we've looked at products where there is an alternative for the European consumers.
Hey, Quentin Arias for the Washington Post. Just here. Sorry. Like several U.S. officials has warned in the U.S., like the new tariff from Donald Trump could threaten national security in the U.S. Do you agree with this statement, and can you also, do you have concrete example on how so? And the other question is, it seems the tariff you are proposing, like peanut butter, bourbon, and so on, are merely symbolic and maybe less harmful than what the EU could face with steel and aluminum. So are you going to speed up and maybe to stress other measures in the coming weeks, or what are your plans?
As I say, we will do three things. We will take this case to the WTO, possibly with other allies. We will have safeguard measures on our steel and aluminium industry. And thirdly, we are looking at rebalancing with safeguards on other products. And that list has been carefully elaborated with the services internally here and also in dialogue with member states in order to correspond to a level of economic hurt that our industry will take. That list is still a provisional one. We are discussing it with member states, and as I said, it will be public very soon, so you can all look at the different items there. And the industry, the stakeholders, will have possibilities to give comments. Of course, we have already spoken to many of them to see if we might adjust the list. So that is very much work in progress. And on your first questions, no, we do not agree that steel imports from Europe pose a national security threat to the United States. That's why we are here.
We might have time for a couple more questions. I'll give the floor to Michael.
Michael Peel, Financial Times. A couple of questions following up on themes that people have already talked about. One is the politics of this, that how much debate internally is there on the politics of this and the fact that you have a president in the US who has already made it clear that he at least will threaten to retaliate if there's any retaliation from this end, and that therefore, because of the nature of the Trump administration and the hawkishness, the people talk about Mr. Cohen leaving overnight, that there's a real risk that will just catch light, whatever you might think you're doing and however reasonable you think you're being. And the second question is, isn't this whole thing fraught with traps for you? And I can think of at least three here. One is the fact that your argument that this is the national security justification is bogus is an assumption, and that technically there is the legal risk that your own measures might be found illegal. Secondly, safeguards in case of diversion of US products could annoy your allies elsewhere in the world. And then thirdly, I mean, the idea of taking the case to the WTO, of course, fraught with dangers. You yourself, and it's been widely observed how problematic how the WTO is creaking at the moment. And of course, part of the reason for that is the US actions towards it, particularly on judicial appointments.
Thank you. I think your first questions were more of a philosophical character and maybe not time to go fully into that. We are, of course, seeing what's happening in the US. We are not happy about this possible decision, and we might disagree with a few other measures taken, but the US is our friend and ally. We are working on a variety of issues, and we will continue to do so. And that is why we would hope that the US would engage with us, because we are also concerned about overcapacity, in particular in steel, but also in other products, and that some countries are not following the global rule book. And we have tools, we have fora where we work on this. We are willing to discuss whether they need to do anything else on this, and that dialogue continues with the US and will continue. As I said, on a variety of other issues, we are working with the US. On the WTO capacity and compatibility, as I said, we are taking very serious legal advice on this. We're looking very closely into the issue to make sure that the steps that we will eventually take are compatible with WTO, and that we feel that we have a very strong case. On the safeguards, we are consulting with the biggest steel exporters to the US, our allies who are also affected by the list, to make sure that we calibrate and that we do the design, the measures, so that we will not have the effects that you were alluding to, because that would, of course, be highly unfortunate if we were hitting other partners in our efforts to protect ourselves. But we need to take certain measures if this will happen. It risks a serious blow to the European economy and to our workers. Can only note that a similar thing happened in 2002, as some of you might recall. It was not a good thing. It costs thousands and thousands of American jobs as well, so I hope that someone in the White House has read the history book.
We have to wrap up before the college readout. We have time for one very last question. Joanna.
Yes, ladies as well. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Joanna Sopinska. And let's a question, Commissioner, on the time frame of the implementation of the countermeasures. First of all, how fast do you want to take a decision? And second, are you going to implement all these tariffs on the US products, these products that you selected already immediately, or, as you mentioned, possibly in in stages? Thank you.
Yes, the issue of sending the case to the WHO, that can be done as soon as we are ready with our legal analysis and prepare that. So that can be done quite quickly. The other things, the safeguards and the rebalancing measures obviously will take a little bit more time. The process is around 2 months. And as I said, we can decide to do it on the rebalancing measures, but we can also wait. We have to announce it to the WHO within 90 days and have the whole list published and consulted and so on. But we can choose to withhold if we want, to see how things develop in the market and our dialogue with the US. And we are also planning, if we take it, to do it in 2 stages. That depends, of course, if the measures are implemented, the effect of them, and how long they are there for, because that is also not clear what they are planning to do, if this is a temporary measure or if it's going to drag on for quite some time, because then the effects on the European market will kick in, maybe, not all at the same time, but it will take longer. And in this, we are working very closely with the industry to get their analysis and their prognosis as well.
Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you, everyone. This brings our press conference to its end. The college readout and the press conference on the European semester and winter package will start in a couple of minutes. Thank you all. Have a good day.